Good afternoon and welcome to IT Chronicles 10 in Tech. My name is Kathleen Wilson and I'm joined here with my colleagues Shane Carlson.
Hey guys.
And Carlos Casanova.
Hey Kathleen.
Hi. And today we have Bradley Killinger. He's the CEO of Sapience Analytics. And we're going to talk a little bit about, well, definitely what's happening in the world right now and remote workers and organizations realizing value from big data. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. So a little bit about Sapience Analytics. We are a data and analytics knowledge workforce management platform. We're very proud to have almost 100 clients around the world. Many of those are Fortune 250 enterprises, and I'm excited to talk a little bit about what we're seeing here in the market, what we've seen during COVID, and how we're helping a number of our customers solve a lot of the big challenges that we're all confronted with.
So Bradley, give us, I guess, just the 30,000-foot tour of, what is Sapience? What do you provide to your customers? The value that they realize out of the product and services.
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, what we have is we really have three primary components to our solution. We have a very non-invasive data collector, which really goes out and it captures the work effort throughout an organization. So i.e. Both what people are, doing in terms of purely, work, applications invoked, hardware that they're using, et cetera. We then capture that information and then we turn that into a big set of reporting capabilities where, managers and leadership can use that type of data to figure out all kinds of things, from employee engagement to, overall capacity, to where they might have areas, for improvement, or areas that they need to, dive more into, training and things like that. So it's a complicated yet very user-friendly system that's been designed from the ground up, really to take into account kind of non-invasive, no PII infractions, et cetera. So we can cover that a little as we go through here.
Okay, great.
So Bradley, as you know, we've obviously just gone through a major transformation in the way many people work and many companies work as a result of that. With more people working in more distributed manners, less people working in office spaces, what do you guys kind of see as the value you bring to the table for your customers around managing a very distributed and mobile workforce today, and what will potentially be in the future a very dramatically changed landscape for how people work around the globe?
Well, we think that the entire game has changed just dramatically, as you suggested. So kind of the new way of working is no longer one where timesheets will suffice, manual verification, looking at clock in, clock out data. Even the concept of traditional timeframes of a workday is 9 to 5 makes sense? Probably for a lot of jobs, no. It's really about the effort and the output. And so if you're a company, ultimately, are the employees giving you that production that you ultimately need? And when you're an actual employee, how do you understand what exactly that is? And so, I believe that this new way of working is going to fundamentally transition us from a world of gut-based decision-making, from kind of hypothesis based on, hey, I'm looking down the hall and I can see that Carlos is here and I kind of think he might be working over there, into a world where it's going to be very, very data-driven. And that's really what a company like Sapience is doing, is trying to provide that data and really, challenge the companies of tomorrow about a whole new way of operationally managing their business.
So Bradley, interesting. Some of this, sort of remote work thing, and kind of dating myself a little bit when we used to call it hoteling and office sharing and all that stuff. I remember people saying, people being worried about like the productivity and this person's not going to work and whatnot. And I remember during those early days, there was a couple of principles. They figured good employees going to work, bad employees not going to work, whether they're in the office or they're at home. And the good employees, they started finding in early studies that they actually worked more because there was sort of a a guilt kind of sense, like, hey, I'm not commuting for an hour. I'm going to get up, before you brush your teeth, before you take the shower, check a couple of emails. It's 45 minutes later. Then you get your coffee, then this, then that. And then after dinner, similar. So are you seeing, and that's going back 10, 15 years. Are you seeing any patterns already where people that have never even thought of working from home that are now, are you seeing any sort of patterns that resemble that or kind of contradict those early on studies?
So I don't know if that's, if I would narrow that just to the, kind of top 20%.
Okay.
I know that across the board, and I'll give a very concrete example. One of our clients, and they have about 25,000 users that are using Sapience. They had this interesting phenomenon in March. So they physically didn't have the infrastructure to allow all of their employees to actually access the systems in order to do the work. Now, they've since solved that infrastructure problem, but what they found was with 13% of their workforce that literally couldn't do a productive thing for a month, they still saw an 11% global increase in overall productivity. And that's and the message they got was, one, if we hadn't made the investment in Sapience, we would have been flying blindly and, either overreacted one way or the other. But the second part is, I have heard from several CEOs of major enterprises who have told me that their whole thought process now is changing. Back in February, they would have said, there's no way we're not going to have big offices and lots of people together. And that's the only way you can effectively manage output. And now as the data is coming in, they're going, how can I shred real estate? How can I get this to be more systemic? Because I think the reality is that people, and even like a smaller company like us, we're up almost 2 hours a day. Now we're starting to worry about the other end, which, can you keep that pace up? It's been 90 days of teams working 5-6 days a week because there's no boundary anymore that exists. And I think just as important as understanding the data, to use it to try to drive operational efficiency, is just as important. You're going to have to figure out, how do you keep a healthy, motivated, energized kind of culture team? Because, it's not just about the employee going home and that being a different experience. It is a different experience being a manager and trying to manage remote employees. Now, I started my career early with IBM. We were one of the first big companies to kind of break off and go send half the company home. So I feel like I had a pretty good framework, but that was an interesting time. I feel, it was a lot of years ago, but I feel like it was yesterday. I remember being 26 years old and sent home from IBM and really struggling for months of kind of going like, nobody calls me. What am I supposed to do? I didn't have manager guidance. And so I think the power of this type of data and analytics is really, really important to put into the conversation. And I think the long-term engagement and health of the employees is a really important part of it, because we're starting to very much worry about burnout. And by the way, one other phenomenon that I'll be quiet is we've had a lot of customers approaching us. There's another interesting thing in their operational and cost dynamics. Nobody's taking vacations. So the accrual of the vacations is a big liability that's brewing. And so it has a two-pronged effect. If people can't get away and uncharge, but also at a corporate level, it's going to be quite costly because there's nowhere to go. So you kind of have to figure out a better balance here.
Yeah. I wanted to kind of ask about this one thing is privacy. Like, what are some of the lessons learned that, through this whole, bring the whole workforce back home to work for? Where did you discover there were issues around privacy?
Well, we've been in business for 10 years, and we've been dealing with privacy kind of since day one. And so, we're very proud of the company we've built, that everything we have done has been kind of to a mind that we don't want to be Big Brother. There are some really intrusive technologies out there that, take screenshots every 3 minutes, or keystroke log, or turn on your video camera and stuff like that. We were never trying to do that. I mean, our whole mission was really twofold, which one was how can an employee get access to their own data so that they can self-improve and become better at what they're doing? And how can we get information to management that could make more effective decisions and on a host of things, from, employee, burnout to educational needs to all the way to thinking through, what happens when, the employees actually are being given too many internal calls or different things like that, so you can figure out things that you can remove. So what we built and an idea is our standard configuration for our platform is in what we call anonymous mode. So we're collecting aggregate team level information and sending it up. We're not trying to, none of our customers use Sapience for hire, fire decisions or anything like that. So, we continue to think this is a big deal. And I know that, you would ask me this question in February of this year, pre-COVID, those were really serious. I mean, so every single customer, new one that we engaged, we spent extensive time with their privacy teams on GDPR compliance and everything else. I fear that as an industry that, as you have seen kind of the barriers come down a little bit as companies are scared and panicked and home, because I mean, we've gotten requests from, very serious companies that are, asking us, hey, will you guys build into your roadmap the ability for a manager to turn on a webcam whenever they want to spy on their employee? And we go, we're never going down that road, and we think that's just the wrong place to go. But we've had reports where, different executives, firms are hiring private investigators, and that was in, I believe it was the New York Times, or I think it was the New York Times a few weeks ago, going and checking on people. Like, for us, we're making the fundamental trust assumption, and I think that the companies that are buying Sapience are that, look, we've got good people, they want to do the right things. This type of technology can just enable these employees and managers just be more effective and make better decisions.
Bradley, thank you very much for your time today. This is obviously a topic we could spend a lot more time digging into, and is very relevant and timely given everything that's going on in the workplace today and kind of how things are shifting and moving. So definitely wish you guys luck as you kind of navigate these changing times. It sounds like you guys have definitely have a product for the time. So thanks again.
Thank you all.
Bradley.
Thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you all. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Bradley.